Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John, this has been your True Nerd, and welcome to Total War Warhammer 2, the game that should still be called Total Warhammer 2. I'm not going to let that one go. But screw it, here we are, just a tiny bit early. Now, obviously, this has been on the channel before. I've been to actually 2 Creative Assembly events where I've actually got to play this under, controlled conditions. But no longer. This is me on my computer playing normally with full access to absolutely everything, all the campaigns and everything. Ooh, yes. Now, unlike last time, because I went into Total War Warhammer 1 just thinking, you know what, I'll figure it out as I go along, because I know, Total War, I'll probably be able to figure it out. And I made some stupid mistakes. So what I've done with this game is basically, I've just done some little messing around with various factions for like, 5-6 hours or something, just getting to grips with some basics. And of course, I actually know a lot more about this one because I played Total War Warhammer 1 and I've spoken to the devs a lot at the various events. So hopefully I can put on a bit of a better show for Total War Warhammer 2 with less of the ridiculous madness, including possibly the most baffling series ending of all time that existed with Total War Warhammer 1. So let's get into this, shall we? So we've got 4 factions we can play as here, together with 2 alternative lords for each one in terms of like, the main legendary lord. So Tyrion and Teclis for the High Elves. We've got Lord Mazdamundi, or alternatively Krokgar, for the Lizard Men. Meanwhile over here we've got Malakath and Morathi for the Dark Elves. She really needs to put some clothes in. It looks very cold outside. She's going to catch a death of cold. We really need to like mod in a nice sensible jersey for her. And of course, over on the Skaven, Quick Head Taker, who you've already seen a little bit of, and instead Lord Skrolk. Now, I've been thinking about this hard, because the interesting thing about this game, what I really like about it just for my first 6 hours, is all the factions feel really different in their playstyle. Like, say, the elves have, like, really nice, solid, chunky, long lines. They're really, really meaty. They're traditional Total War stuff. They've got really heavy shock cavalry. They've got nice, solid lines. They've got a backup of bows. Like, if you've played old Total Wars and want to recreate that sort of feeling, the High Elves are absolutely flipping great. The Lizard Men come with giant beasts of war. The big thing about them is they've just got massive beasts of war in the form of like Tyrannosauruses, or I think they're called like Carnosaurs in the Warhammer universe, together with, charging Stegosauruses and all sorts of cool stuff. So basically, the glory of them is massive beasts that just smash into the enemy and charge around, which is just hilarious. Dark Elves are an interesting mixed bag, actually. They've got some big beasts, like the Hydra that's right flipping there, in fact. And they've got the nice, solid frontline units that kind of they share some of, a little bit, at least, with the High Elves. They're kind of in the middle. They're possibly the least distinctive, but in terms of their unique faction gameplay mechanics, in the form of the slavery system, where they take slaves and they're used for all sorts of stuff, actually, arguably, that's one of the most interesting. And they probably have access to some of the biggest, most terrifying beasts on the map, too, which is kind of fun. And finally, the Rats, who form massive swarms. Basically, like, they're almost halfway to being a horde faction, which is hilarious, together with their own unique, really interesting gameplay mechanic in the form of food. And you know what? Having given it some thought, I've decided I am going to play a rat playthrough. Admittedly, there's probably going to be something about rats in the title of this video, so you probably already knew that. But not Quick Head Taker, who you already saw a little bit of in kind of my little preview event thingy. No, instead, I'm going over to Lord Skrolk, who can still fight decently on the front line, but he has the advantage that he's got some unique different starting units to help him out. He's got different faction events, so basically, all the stuff related to Plague and Pox Cauldron and recruiting units like that all come a bit cheaper to him. He can do one of the rights. We'll get into the rights in a moment, don't you worry. A lot cheaper as well. And yeah, for all the Plague units, they get cheap upkeep, so he can basically have armies filled with all unique plaguey stuff. I like plaguey stuff. Plaguey stuff is fun. Plus, he actually encourages Skaven corruption, which is a real bloody mixed blessing. Yeah, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. I'm just going to play on normal difficulty, by the way, as even though I've put a few hours in and I know a little bit, I don't know enough to think I can kind of jump straight into the harder difficulties. Though actually, there is a fun highest difficulty setting. Legendary. Manual saves not allowed in the campaign, and while you're paused in battle, you can't issue orders. Bloody hell, that's a little bit on the harsh side. Yeah, let's just stick with normal for now.
Deep under the world, they chitter and plan, watching, waiting. When they emerge, it is a nightmare vision. The Skaven, a ravenous horde of verminous ratmen. They gnaw at the roots of the world, like an infected wound. They mean to rule over ruins, for such is the will of their god, the great horned rat. Only the island home of the High Elves has remained unscathed. And at its center is the Great Vortex. A swirling maelstrom that siphons chaos from the world. The Skaven covet its vast power with envious, beady red eyes. The twin-tailed comet is oft seen as an omen, but this time its wake has disturbed the winds of magic. In the secret halls of the Under-Empire, the Council of 13 has gathered. A time to scheme of opportunity.
I kill dwarf things in Pillar City. No! Clanmores go to Southlands. Hunt for Warpstone. Moors are puppet minion. Pestilence infest Lastria. Yes. But all Warpstone for council plan. Return to your assigned clan. Harvest Warpstone. Yes, most precipitous of masters. And flay yourself, your impertinence. Oh, it will be done, your worship. Cease your chittering, adherents of decay, for Skrolk speaks. By will of council, we set paw in Lastria to visit ruin upon the reptile things. Yes. Twin-tailed comet brings great opportunity for pestilence. Great vortex of Ulthuan vulnerable. Much power to be had. Warpstone holds key. Much warpstone found in reptile thing cities. Kill Sotex creatures and steal their treasures. Skrolk will bind Vortex to his will and spread sickness across the world. All will succumb to the plague monks.
It is possible, I should say, I might just be playing as the bad guys. So, welcome to Total War Warhammer 2, which has got a really damn pretty campaign map. The campaign map is just lovely. It's possibly the prettiest one I've ever seen in a Total War game. It's really nice. I like how colourful it is. And really varied too. So we've got, like, you know, all this lovely jungle here. And if you zoom right out, it goes out to a map. But over here, we've got, like, you know, some nice deserty bits. If we go up north, we can't really see it yet. But there's lots of nice, you know, snowy, mountainy bits too. It's a very varied map. And of course, right here in the middle, the Vortex. There's the Vortex. That's a thing. If I was playing as a High Elf or a Lizard Man, you know, the good guys, we'd want to stabilise it and save the world. However, the Dark Elves want to... I'm not sure what the Dark Elves want to do. I think they're just basically, they've decided they're evil and they've just decided that blowing up the Vortex seems like the sort of thing to do. Clearly, I want to bind it to my will to spread disease across the land, which you'd think would be a bad thing, but I guess I'm a plague rat, so from my point of view, it's a very good thing. And we start off with a single city, not even a full province. Remember, everything still works like it did in Total War Warhammer 1. So basically, every single province is decentralized. If you want to actually hold the entire province, you've got to hold all the little towns and cities within it. There's one capital that's got proper walls and everything, and then a number of sub-towns. There might not be any. I think there are some provinces that's literally just one city, and then it's up to 3 little small towns dotted around, some of which may just be ruins you can walk into, some of which may be held by someone else. In this case, it's held by the Southern Sentinels, so that's fine. If we just kind of go over to Garrison details, we can actually see what's in there, and we can tell immediately, okay, so that is indeed, as was implied, Lizard Men, and we've got to kick the Lizard Men out. So, probably a good first thing to do will be actually, reunify this province and control the entirety of the Lost Valley, because when you control an entire province, it becomes a lot more powerful because you start issuing proclamations. And conveniently, one of the territories I need to take over is Subatun, which is right over here, and incidentally, exactly what this guy wants me to do. Now, this is probably the big way in which this varies from pretty much, to my knowledge, any previous Total War games, which is just about every previous Total War game has always been about basically conquering the world. And pretty much you've been conquering the world because that's just what you're supposed to do. Also, hello over there, are you a dinosaur? I think you're a dinosaur. It's nice that you're just fluttering about. Basically, the grand campaign has always just said, hey, conquer this much of the world. And as long as you've conquered a fairly decent proportion of the world, that's it, we'll call it a victory. And that's all still fine. The Domination Victory is still available, absolutely, if you just destroy the following 6 factions that are all dotted around the world. I assume that's just the 6 factions that make up the 2 main factions of High Elves, Dark Elves, and Lizardmen, but obviously you don't need to wipe out good old Queek Headtaker, who presumably is still bumming around on the island somewhere over here. We can't see him right now, but presumably he's just getting on with his own stuff over here. Basically, you want to take over the Vortex. You know, my character even said, hey, I want to take over the Vortex and infect the world with illness, because that's just a thing I want to do. So that's fine by winning the final battle for the Vortex, because when you ultimately almost take the Vortex, pretty much everyone in the world's going to want to stop you having the Vortex, because, no one else wants to get the flu or whatever it is you want to give everyone in the world. Possibly something worse than the flu, I'm not sure. And this is where Warpstone comes into it. Because yes, indeed, our first little mission here, Siege the Temple, awards 8 Warpstone. And you just find Warpstone in ruins as well. Warpstone lets you perform rituals. Keep performing rituals and you get some real powerful benefit, ultimately doing the noisome binding, which I'm assuming is the final rat ritual, and thus the ritual whereby you will actually take over the Vortex itself, winning the game. But then everyone will try and stop you, and there's a big, epic, dramatic final battle, which is lovely. And that means you do not have to necessarily be the biggest faction in the world in terms of landmass to actually win the game. You take the Vortex, you win anyway, and that's really, really nice indeed. I've been reading in the various reviews that have started emerging about this game, people have been saying, actually, I wasn't the biggest faction in the world, I actually kind of, hung back, made a nice solid empire, just kept working on the rituals and stuff, and that actually worked out pretty nicely, which is really, really damn cool. So, we need to prioritise getting hold of Warpstone, but there's more currencies than that, and of course just money as well, so right now we've got a nice income coming in, as well as a bit of a treasury to start us off. Rats also have to worry about food. So right now I've got 50 food stockpiled, but it's going down to a turn because my army has upkeep as it's out in the field and all of that business, and also my settlements too. So I need to start getting some food from somewhere in a hurry, because the entire rat faction changes dramatically based on the amount of food that's available, between 0 and 100. I think it caps out at 100 and can't go any higher than that. I think it also caps down at 0 and can't go any lower. If I can basically stockpile huge amounts of food, then my growth is going to start exploding. Growth is great because growth equals tech. Tech cities can produce more money, you can skip forwards to more advanced troops more quickly. In general, it's a good bloody idea. And yeah, leadership +5 when in your own or allied territories, that's basically morale. Public order, that's nice as well. And if I can get plentiful food up to north of 80%, growth +20 in all provinces, leadership +10 when in my own or allied territory. So brilliant for if I'm just, on the defensive, public order +2. However, on the downside, if food starts falling away, growth -20, leadership -10 for all forces everywhere, income from raiding -25%, public order -2, income from sacking and looting settlements -25%, and income from post-battle loot -25% faction-wide. So, starving is an absolute flipping disaster. The rats need to keep an eye on food. And they also need to keep an eye... This is why I love the rats. The rats have a lot of things to keep their eye on. They also have to keep an eye on flipping corruption. So if we just kind of go into Skaven corruption, right now there's not much corruption going on in the world. Corruption is low, but obviously this is a Skaven settlement, it's going to start going up over time. Now you'd think that, like with vampires and vampiric corruption in Warhammer 1, Skaven corruption would be good for a Skaven faction. No! No, it's terrible! The Skaven are such disgusting, terrible, horrible creatures that basically even Skaven settlements suffer from Skaven corruption being too high. It does have the advantage I could basically start summoning more and more rats into battle with me, which is very, very cool indeed. We'll get into that when it comes up. But yeah, it actually does make, even for me, my public order actually goes down as a result of that. So That's fun. Anyway, you, my good man, good old Lord Skrolk, you've started off with some elite units as you always do. Now, because he's like a plague priest or whatever, he's actually started off with some different units from what Queek Headtaker would get. So he doesn't actually get any rat ogres, which is a shame. We're going to get to rat ogres. Rat ogres are amazing. But he does have some lovely plague monk censer bearers who are absolutely really damn cool. So yes, lovely plague censer here. Warpstone dust and vile contagions fill this diabolical censer, exposure to which does horrible things to body and mind alike. So he can pierce armor. He does an awful large amount of damage. In fact, he gets a bonus damage too. Ah, that's just his armor piercing over there. Lovely. So basically, he can just go in there and smash stuff, and he does a very good job indeed. We've also got a whole bunch of plague monks. These guys are pretty bloody elite too. Dual sword infantry, anti-infantry specialists, damage dealers, and frenzy. So if leadership is high, they do even more damage, yep, and 32 damage base, together with more bonus versus infantry. So basically, these lads here, just put them in the front line against other infantry, and they will do an excellent good job. I've also got some good indirect fire going on here. I've got some lovely slingers who have got poor morale, so expect them to flee potentially. But you know what? They've got some decent range in them. 120 range is pretty good. Like, pretty long range archers that the elves have are in like range 180. So 120 is pretty darn solid, I'd say. Also, these guys are Skaven slaves, meaning that they are expendable. Officially, witnessing friendly expendable units rout does not reduce other units' leadership unless they themselves are expendable. So basically, these guys can run away and the actual monks won't care, because they're sort of expected to run away, because they've got very poor leadership, i.e. poor morale, i.e. they will run away all the time. So don't let them get involved in the battle. However, the upside of that is, let's go over to the plague monks here. So censer bearers and plague monks have upkeep of like 75 gold apiece, you know, fairly standard for professionalised troops. However, the rats can basically issue all of these Skaven slaves, not just slingers. Skaven slaves come in all different shapes and sizes and with different weapons and whatever. Their upkeep is 23. Basically, they can field a full stack army for like a third or a quarter of the cost as anyone else. It's a terrible army, but you know what? Sometimes terrible armies are all you're going to need, and that makes them very interesting. Also, I get some, well, they're not quite trebuchets, because I don't think they can actually attack walls. They're just for attacking actual units, but we've still got ourselves some lovely little anti-infantry little trebuchets here. Armor-piercing missiles, anti-infantry, and Plague Claw Contagion, once again, does horrible things to bodies and minds alike. Right, let's get you moving in this direction, and we can actually show off a battle in a minute. So you just head into hostile territory, we'll get over to Supertoon and take that over momentarily. However, we do have this lovely city right here. Everything, as I say, works like it did in Warhammer 1, so there's a finite number of slots available in each city, so you can't build everything in one place. Instead, some stuff has to be decentralized out to Supertoon and the Sentinel of Time when we take those over. However, I do have one open slot here at Oixel immediately, and also when I get my city up to level 3, there will be a new slot opening too. So, let's have a little look-see here. We've already built ourselves a clan pit, which lets us build clan rat spears and clan rats. These guys are a little bit more on the professionalized side, so as a result, yeah, they actually cost like a 87 or 81 to build. So these are just basic standard infantry. They're nothing too special, to be honest, because even then, they're just meat shields. And if I upgrade that building, basically I can just fit out my clan rats with some shields just to give them extra survivability. Not a bad idea, because if we're going to be sending out huge armies of fairly weak troops, just anything we can do to increase their survivability would not be the worst thing in the world. But if we're feeling like that's a little bit on the expensive side, that's what we've got the Skaven slaves for. So yes indeed, Skaven slaves right here, expendable and meat shields, upkeep 16 for a Skaven slave. Don't expect it to really do much, but even the most crappy, basic, peasant-like unit in the world has always had its use in Total War for pinning units in place while you get other stuff round the back of them. And that's what rats need. They have to constantly be outnumbering their enemies to encircle, hit them in the sides, hit them in the flanks, get the good units round the rear. Basically, we're playing a Hannibal game here. Just put some weak units up front to pin your enemy in place, and then get your good units round the back to envelop them. That's what we need to be doing here. Because, yeah, don't expect much out of Skaven slaves, but some of them will do a competent job. And as you can see, yes, Slingers there. Slingers, 25 upkeep. Spears, 19 upkeep. You could put together like an army of 10 Skaven slaves, and it would have the same upkeep as like one unit of proper infantry down the line. They're beautiful. But the most important thing is food. And one of these buildings does give me food right here, which is here, the corrupted spawning pool that generates 5 food. Very, very flipping important. Absolutely, we want that immediately. So let's get that into production, because plus 5 food is worth filling a slot in my capital for straight away. And as we've already got the clam pit here, let's get the clam barracks in production too. Because yeah, every single one of these is on its own actual timer. So this will be done in 1 turn, and then this will be down to 1 in the same turn. So you can build multiple things at once if you can afford it. Admittedly, I've just burnt through a lot of money, but I'm sure it's all absolutely fine. Meanwhile, if we want to control the Lost Valley, we're also going to need the Sentinel of Time. Now, sooner or later, we are going to need more than 1 leader. Recruiting leaders works just like it did back in Warhammer 1. Just go down to your actual city, recruit a lord there, and then basically pay for the lord of your choosing. Down at the top is their loyalty. It's going to be a random number generated between the actual given range there. A lord costs a certain amount of money up front, as well as a certain amount of upkeep, together with increasing the entire army upkeep by 2%. So every single additional lord certainly costs a lot, but sooner or later you're going to need some. Now, I've already got myself a Grey Seer, like a little plague priesty type thingy whatever over there. So absolutely, what we need now, I would say, is a warlord. A chap whose job is to more get in the front line and do some good choppy. So, we've got ourselves a confident guy here, leadership +2, or cunning instead. Deceit is perfectly acceptable means of attack, enables poison attacks, ambush success chance +10%. Ambush I think we can do without, plus this guy's more likely to be loyal, so this guy, I'm going to recruit him now. And if we're very lucky, he's going to be... What was your loyalty, my good man? Your loyalty came out as 5. Okay. Pretty low, all things considered, but he's okay for the time being. Hopefully that will actually go up over time. Now we've recruited him, he can recruit, because you can't actually train new units on their own. Instead, you recruit units fairly quickly the moment a lord is actually in a city. 3 at a time, in fact. So, what we've got here are clan rat spears, so the more expensive professionalised lads, together with clan rats who are just more sword infantry. Well, I'd say we're definitely going to need some proper clan rats, but as we're definitely going to be padding it out with some Skaven slaves, let's get those guys into production first. Next turn, I'll build some actual proper units, and then this guy can start marching south with his slightly more crappy army. But hopefully, against some just little empty ruins, that should more than do the job. So, that's all I can do this turn, end the turn, and everyone else gets their turn. And that's a lot of people, by the way. There's a lot of small factions in this game, and ooh... oh flipping dear, right. So, these guys, who actually I'm already technically at war with, apparently we just assume we're at war with those guys, they've come over here and taken the Sentinel of Time over. What can I tell about this? They've taken some knocks, which is good. Lizard men, not much I can see. So there's an army there, and on top of the army there's also going to be a garrison here as well. Because yeah, every city comes with its own garrison forces. So sure, we've got this guy here, who's got this force that's now trained. But also, in Oixel itself, if we look at the garrison details, this city also just has a fairly decent, good-sized garrison. That is not allowed to go out on campaign with you, but if your army gets attacked right next to the city, it is allowed to come out onto the field as reinforcements. That's the only way it's actually allowed to leave the city. So we'll just leave this guy in here for the time being. Actually, we don't need to leave him in here. We can move him over to here immediately, because as long as he's inside friendly territory, he is still allowed to recruit from the local pool. So good old Toxodan can just chill out there for the time being. No rush for him. I want to potentially take out this army out in the field if we can. Meanwhile, good old Lord Skrolk, he can head over there and actually take their proper city. Now, this city is an interesting one, because when you look at a city, you can actually see what unique bonus resource it has attached to it. This one has pastures. Now, pastures, a unique building chain, is very, very important for rats. Very much so. Because you can see there, because actually, I imagine, over here at Oixel, yes, this thing has already been built. So right there, we've got immediately a lovely, lovely food generator ×5. So now my food count is going up. If I can take those pastures and build some farms, that'll be even more flipping food. And also, is that growth rate too, by the way? That is... yeah, growth +13. So this city is now starting to grow faster and faster and faster. Now we've got 9 turns until a surplus point, i.e. a population surplus you can use to actually level up your city. Very, very good indeed, because once I've got 2 of those, I can get the city up to level 3. You want to be growing your cities as fast as possible, because rat armies are so feeble that you really need the tech advantage when we start facing some proper opposition. But for the time being, this is probably just a nice, simple one. Oh yeah, this is a nice, simple one for me to show off how rat armies work. because we've shown up with superior numbers, and that's what you flipping need against lizard people, because lizard people are kind of diametrically opposed to rats. They have smaller numbers of expensive, but bloody hell, they just won't die units. Lizard troops are really, really tough, which is why I like this campaign with Skrolk over here rather than Quick Head Taker. It means we are still going to get to see a lot of lizards, and lizards are really, really cool. Right, let's get down there and see this. So, first up, we need to decide the winds of magic, i.e. how much magic there's going to be available for my spellcaster. 7's pretty low, so I'm going to gamble to see if I can get a better result. And the answer is, yes indeed, Ranald is with me and I've got a much better result. Now I have got 20 out of 30, starting limit at 25. Marvellous. So yes, now I get plenty of magic for my guy to cast some magic spells. So with that I'm happy to start the deployment. Now you probably noticed that we're attacking a town but there's no walls. That's because, yeah, this is one of the little sub-towns, so it doesn't have walls. Actually, if you upgrade it enough, you can actually build walls on your sub-towns if one of them is in like a really precarious position. But for the most part, you're not going to do that. Also, really nice thing I do like. Remember how impossible it was to fight battles in forests in Rome Total War 1? Yeah, they've fixed that, because now if you go up to trees, the tops of the trees just disappear, so you can actually see what's going on inside forests. I'm not sure whether that was true in Warhammer 1, I can't remember. Also, I love the new kind of vaguely Aztec-y Mayan-style cities that you'll find all over the world here. Right, time to draw up, because there's no walls, so they will actually come for me. So, because I've got the catapult here, which you can see has ridiculous range, I may as well fall right back to give my catapult the most time possible to be firing on these bastards. So if I bring my catapult right over here, say, yeah, that's still going to have some really, really good range. Catapults want to obviously be right at the flipping back, so that's nice. You've got a, yeah, you've still got a nice view from there. Nice. Now, we've got ourselves 4 units of actual flipping infantry. They've got 5, so these guys are going to want to be spread fairly long and thin to make sure that we don't accidentally get flanked here. So these guys are just going to be nice and there. And up front, of course, we want ourselves some slingers. The slingers can be in skirmish mode, so they can be a little bit more up front, because we know for a fact that what we're taking on is going to be infantry. They haven't got any indirect firepower, they don't have any cavalry. So these guys can basically just start slinging, falling back, and then slinging some more. So these guys being a little bit exposed out front isn't a problem, because lizards aren't the fastest things in the world. So I'd say that's perfectly fine as a starting point. Don't forget my actual Lord, by the way. What do I want to do with him? He's got 2 abilities, actually. Yeah, his 2 abilities are Pestilent Breath. So 8 seconds duration, he can actually do a great big kind of little spitty breath thing that causes some damage. Lovely. Causes magical damage. Expanding tear-shape attack. Can disrupt unit formation. Strong versus multiple units. Weak versus a single combatant. Alternatively, he's got Bless with Filth. An augment in an area instantly affects targets in an area for poison for 10 seconds, together with a big reduction in their damage and their speed. Okay. This is interesting. I'm going to leave you at the front with the slingers, and all of you are going to fall back later. Just make sure these guys are on fire at will, by the way. Yes, indeed, they are at fire at will. Marvellous. So, start the battle, and if we're lucky, yes, indeed. These guys are now running straight at me. Now, what's the range I've got? Yes, I'm aware of spell overcasting. Thank you very much indeed, but I think we need to do that just now. So, my plague catapults are getting straight in there and doing some damage to those lads straight away. And actually, you can see it's quite a significant amount of damage and their morale's going down. I'm going to do a Bless with Filth on these guys immediately. So, they have just been... Did we just miss those guys? I swear we should have hit them. Maybe we just can't see what's going on. They're not desperately thrilled, and now my slingers are getting involved. So these guys are probably going to break. Yeah, so they've broken pretty much a flipping immediately. Now I just need to see what I can do to these guys as well, because this is perfect. So you're not quite breaking, actually. You're nearly broken. Let's just put in a nice breath of bad stuff over there. That's done some damage to them. Probably time for you to start falling back, my lord. So those guys now start falling back. I want them to split up, though. So if they split up, they might still be able to get a couple of light knocks in. So just keep going on. In come my plague cannons. Slings doing some good work there. At this point, these guys probably want to just fall back for the most part. You fall back over here. No, you over here, please. You over here. Thank you. I think they're being stuck because they're stuck in skirmish mode. So therefore, they're ignoring my commands for the time being. So they're just running over there. My guy runs over here. My skirmishers all basically just get out of the way. And now these dinosaurs are in a little bit of trouble. Let's just pause here for 1 second. Oh, yes. This is looking good. Yeah, this is what you want to be doing with the rats. Do some damage, skirmish, hit their morale, hit their health before the battle even begins. Nice pile of corpses on the field. Very, very good indeed. And yes, indeed, we are now ready for another lovely little blessing of filth. And in fact, actually, this is just perfect. This is going to hit all of them. So their melee damage is going to be down, and their speed's going to be down. And in general, they're going to be a little bit on the screwed side. You, my good people, no, not you, the actual guys who are supposed to be, like, doing the fighting. You, get over there, start closing the net. You slingers, however, skirmish mode off. Instead, I'd like you to draw up over in this sort of a direction in preparation for hitting these guys. So now, unpause. And now great big spell's going to be cast there. That should affect most of them. You get in here. You get in here. You guys should probably just focus over there for the time being. And now, all my slingers are in position. Just turn around here. Just get around the back of them. And now just start hitting these guys in the back if you'd be so kind. Thank you very much. Momentarily they'll be ready. Actually, we've got some problems here. Those guys are coming for me, which is a little bit on the concerning side. Right. You, intercept these guys, please. And these guys are now starting to break. And you, at this point, can just get involved. Even though this guy's like a magey character, he can still do a decent job in a melee, but not as good as like a proper warlord. So now, at this point, these guys can just head over here. And we have won, nice and simple. If you're not familiar with the interface, by the way, the top bar is health, the second bar down is morale, and the gold bar is ammunition. So my slingers have done a good job there, and that's just basically kind of a good way of dealing with the rats. You don't want to be engaging directly, you want to skirmish, pelt, use all your bits and pieces. I'm pretty sure I just shot my own guys in the back there, so guys, stop doing that, please. Because I'm pretty sure, as there has always been, there's friendly fire going on. So maybe just stop pelting. But yes, these are my lovely little plague trebuchets. I like these. These things are good. They're like weird steampunk trebuchets, except they're tossing filth. Absolutely flipping beautiful. Say hello to my little ratties, by the way. I like my little ratties. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with how all of this went, and now we've got my lovely little kind of plague monks at the front here. Very, very good indeed. I like my plague monks with their beautiful, beautiful double swords. These guys now in retreat, and because this was technically a city battle, even though it didn't happen on the walls, because it was a small town, these guys will just now cease to exist. Boom. Job flipping done. So, nice decisive victory there. We only lost 29 men. Because we actually take the city, we get some food for free, which is a very, very nice thing indeed. Big pile of money too. Even if you don't decide to loot, you just get some extra money. We've also got, an arcane item has been handed over to our good old Lord Skrolk there, and he's also leveled up from doing that as well. Very, very nice indeed. So, happy with a decisive victory. Now we decide what to do with the town. We could, if we wanted to, raise it to the ground. Alternatively, we can sack it, which means you don't actually capture it. It stays not in your possession, but you do get a big pile of money. Not worth it at this point in the game, obviously. Though, yeah, there's other advantages too, like unit replenishment goes up, so your army gets back up to strength nice and quickly. But what I really want to do is occupy it for myself. Obviously, if you're occupying a city, then the people who live there aren't necessarily going to be thrilled. So there's a temporary conquest penalty to public order locally, as well as provincial instability, full stop. The minus 30, I think, lasts for, yeah, the next turn only. Whereas the minus 10, that takes 10 turns to clear, deteriorating at 1 per turn. You get a little bit of money, and also you do get some unit replenishment. However, the really fun, interesting thing about rats is they get to decide what tier an area they're taking over actually is. So I can just move in right now, and that'll be absolutely 100% fine. But if I want to, this place instead could be level 2 immediately, meaning I don't have to spend a population point on it. It can start taking up to high technology faster. All the advantages of having, say, a town as opposed to a village in traditional Total War games. I can have it immediately at the cost of food. But because my food has dropped out of normal food levels down to food shortage, as a result, the actual growth of all my settlements is going to be a loss of -8. But because I've got this massive food surplus, I think next turn we should hopefully be back into normal food levels anyway. We might not be, because boosting this place to level 2 means the population's up, meaning that's going to require more food as well. So I'm going to knock my actual flipping surplus a bit, but because we know this place has pastures, I think this is worth it anyway. So I'm going to loot and occupy the place and move it straight up to a level 2 city. Oh dear. Okay, that was worse than what I actually expected. Oh, no, sorry, I think that's just a one-off. I think the colonization is a one-off. Lovely. On the plus side, at least we get some nice pile of money in warpstone. Not much. Right now, the warpstone is only up to 9, and we need flipping 350 before we actually get to our first ritual. But that's fine. That's still good. We've got some rights to keep us going in the time being, too. We've also gained... Ooh, a reptile thing sacrifices a follower. I'm not sure that's a willing follower, to be perfectly honest, but whatever. The great horned rat's hunger must be appeased, and the ancient enemy makes the most satisfying meals. Ah! Weapon strength plus 10% when fighting against lizard men. Good. That is very, very good indeed. And he's also picked up that warp energy condenser we saw earlier. A rune-inscribed power pack covered in flywheels, copper core, and enchanted mechanisms to draw energy from the fickle winds of magic. Winds of magic power reserve plus 8. Beautiful, so that means I can just do more magic spells during my battles. Very, very good indeed. So, over to Subatan, right over here, and straight away, yes, we have multiple new slots here, because straight away 2 slots open, because we got this place straight up to level 2. Now, most importantly of all, yes indeed, we have got ourselves a putrid rice bog. Everyone loves a putrid rice bog. Pastures, underground mud yards where mewling meat things are kept ready for slaughter. Okay, that's fine. Apparently the pasture was just a suggestion we might want to build this. That's okay. So I spent 800 on a pasture, and that is worth growth plus 30 and food generated 4. Yes, every flipping time. We want that immediately. As for the other, however, I personally find the building browser a bit easier to use. So yeah, because this is a town, it can't go over level 3. So don't worry about any of this stuff up here. We just worry about this stuff down here instead. So we can make towns, you know, focus more on the military aspect. Alternatively, yeah, you can give them more in the way of defense, where they get alarmed tunnels, and there we are. Adds walls to settlements. So if you want to, admittedly it's expensive. It's like 4,500 for both upgrades, but then you can actually have walls on any settlement that you actually want. You don't fight on the walls around the city if you're Skaven, however, because Skaven, of course, aren't actually living in the cities. They reduce the city to ruins, and then they live in the caves and tunnels underneath it. So there are actually special rat underground in-cave kind of wall defense things. Hopefully we'll get to see one of those pretty soon. Alternatively, yeah, we can get growth up as well as making a little bit of money, but not a huge amount, to be honest, together with the casualty replenishment rate, or rubbish pit if we want to actually stop the Skaven corruption getting too much out of flipping control. And again, that generates just a little bit of money too. Or if public order is becoming a problem, you need the Taskmaster's platform. Bear in mind that public order is for the entire province, so basically it takes all of the buildings you've put for all 3 of these places together to figure out what growth and population and corruption, etc. actually should be. But straight away, this area is already up to flipping 16% on the Skaven corruption, going up 6% a turn. So that's gonna go up pretty bloody quickly. Now I'm going to say a good starting point would be focusing on growth. So let's get a Rattling Warren here. The Warrens are full to teeming with rattlings and immature vermin yet to prove themselves. Surviving this harsh environment is brutal, harsh, and often fatal. I like that. Often fatal survival. And that gets growth up another 20. We're already down to 7 turns till the next actual population rise. This should help that even flipping further. See that right now growth is plus 56 locally. This will be a very, very significant boost to that. Now, my next mission is indeed to actually take over an entire province. Well, that's fine. We just need to take the Sentinel of Time back off the bloody lizard folks. But this time, we've actually got a proper army that needs to be taken on. So, that might be a little bit more on the complicated side. Let's build up some more troops, because I'm concerned that, yeah, right over here, we've got ourselves an actual proper big crater. That's a capital, so that's going to have some more stuff going on there. That's going to have walls and potentially some decent production facilities. Actually, we can... I'm not sure whether that's accurate or not, whether you can actually see that. It looks like, even though it's capital, they haven't actually invested in it much. Also, let's just use the diplomacy screen to see what we can learn. Go away, Mr. Narrator Man. I know what I'm doing, well, roughly anyway. Right, over here with these guys. Right, so they own some more stuff down here. They own this over here. But other than that, they don't actually own that much. We should be able to clear these guys out without too much difficulty. Yeah, we know they've got 3 settlements, in fact. And there's one, and there's the other 2. Fine. So we know exactly what we're looking at there. If we just take that over... see, we don't really know what any of this is. That's just rebel. So, knock this out. Yeah, if Skrolk goes this way and knocks out this here castle, and the other guy goes down south, then hopefully we might have enough strength with our new little guy to actually win that fight. But obviously, if we want that, he's actually going to need some proper troops. We've got plenty of money right now, so he can recruit pretty freely. So let's actually give him some proper actual troops here. So, yeah, some actual clan rats, lovely, and some spears, just in case we need those guys. Spears are, yeah, anti-large, charge defense against large foes, and a meat shield. Honestly, we're not going to be running into much large, probably, with this little starting faction we're taking on right now. But who knows? Because there's clearly a very, very large skeleton in this here pond, so maybe something large will show up at some point. Meanwhile, back over to Skrolk, he now has to level up, so we need to figure out what to do with him, because now we can invest perks, again, very much like Warhammer 1. So, tail weapon, melee attack +3, weapon strength +4, so if we want him to be better at a straight-up fight, that's one way we can do that. And then just keep going down the route of giving him more and more damage if we want him to be a straight-up fighter. No, actually. Pestilent Breath. And then the Blessed with Filth. Ooh, I wouldn't mind upgrading the Blessed with Filth. Minus 30% cooldown. That's not great. And make it cheaper to cast. Alternatively, Inspiring Presence is just, yeah, straight up morale bonus if you're actually standing close by to this guy. Now, that can be important for a rat, because the rat's morale is very low. So, therefore, you've got to make sure that your generals are really, really flipping inspiring. Alternatively, Route Marcher. Ooh, campaign movement range at 10%. You know what? That's tempting. That's very tempting. Or Pestilent Breath. I like Pestilent Breath. And that would lead into, potentially, new abilities. Ooh, like the new ability in the form of Plague Rash. I like that, fine. I'm going to upgrade that, and then that will ultimately lead into Plague Rash, because I like upgrading his actual spells. And you can see, by the way, that this guy, because we've actually got him out on patrol, and I've actually been training new troops for him, he's actually gone up from loyalty 5 out of 10 to 6 out of 10. Very nice. As long as it doesn't hit 0, that's fine. 0 is the point where they're guaranteed to rebel and form their own little faction and take their entire army with them. So make sure that doesn't happen at least. Now, as for that big building up there that, yeah, may have walls, but it's not very well guarded, but it has a decent-sized garrison. We've got Saurus spears, just some basic spear infantry, together with Saurus warriors. This is where rats struggle. Rats are not good at taking walls, because morale on walls has always been a bit of a trick in Total War, and the rats don't have the morale, but with these here Plague Monks, anti-infantry, we might be able to pull it off just with that there anti-infantry. Yeah, that might theoretically work. Still, that's probably all we can do for now. Let's end the turn, and then hopefully the food situation should stabilise soon, because I don't actually want to go into war with food that negative. So, you're on the... Oh, you're on the move. Hello, you actually want to take me on? Right. They actually want to take me on. And I've got... Oh dear. Ah, my troops haven't actually arrived yet, but he's got very little. They've got their leader. Their troops are badly damaged. Those are skink skirmishers, so they can fire while they're moving. They're the poison blow dart guys. Then there's just some basic crappy infantry, but they're damaged. But I have nothing but crappy. No, I'm going to back off. I'm going to back off for the time being until my actual reinforcements show up. Hopefully they do still show up, even though that guy has chased me off. So he's now stepped inside my territory. What a git. No, he's actually backed off afterwards. Fine. He saw an opportunity and he took it. No, sadly, the troops he was training he never got because he moved before they were actually done. So these guys still under strength here. That's fine. What we probably want to do, therefore, is send these guys down over here to help out with the Sentinel of Time. Because now, there's a garrison as well as an army actually in place. So we've got this garrison together with these actual guys. And they're now actually getting themselves repaired pretty quickly. Now, the food situation has also managed to stabilise, which is very, very welcome indeed. We're now up to 42 food, which is, well, bad. Yeah, before we actually go getting involved in a scrap, we should get my food up to, at the bare minimum, normal. Because if the food goes up to normal, then we lose that leadership -5 to everyone. So we need to get that up in a hurry. But that's fine, because in just one turn, the farmland will be done. And as soon as the farmland is done, over here, yep, absolutely perfect. And this place can actually be upgraded to immediately for 1,000. Yeah, I've actually got the money for that. That's no problem at all. And meanwhile, over here, in the plaza, we can actually train better stuff now, because now the clan rats with shields just came into effect. Yes, that means we should be able to do a much, much better job. Right, let's get the army of Skrolk on the move as well. Though that is going to need some backup if we want... Sorry, I do forget, of course, the local pool is across the entire province, not across this area. So as a result, because this guy's training, this guy can't do a thing. Well, that's okay. Let's just go and have a little look-see what we could potentially do here. At this here castle. So, put this place under siege. So, we're around the city, and now we get to see what we're facing off against here. Yeah. The cohort are nothing too much to be worried about. In fact, none of this is too much to be worried about. If we could just get past the tower defences with our lovely, lovely plague monks, they should be able to take the city, I would say. Alternatively, a battering ram, if we could just actually break down the gates, might be enough. Okay, you know what? That's what we're going to do. This is going to take a little bit of time to do. So as this isn't a big army, we've only got a labour force available per turn of 6. So building 2 sets of double siege towers together with 2 rams is going to take us 6 turns to wait out. But very often you will just find that city sieges do just take a little bit of time. Alternatively, I could just come back with some clan rats. If I just came back with some clan rats, that might be the easier way of doing things. Now let's just continue the siege for now. We'll come back to you. And end the turn, let everyone else do their thing, and this time there should be nothing stopping me having a much bigger army. You planning to... you are indeed planning to leave the city. Good. I'm glad you wanted to leave the city. I didn't want to have to take you on inside it. And the game is flagging. We've got some public order issues. Right, what's causing that then? Probably just the problem of, provincial instability. That's just going to go down over time. Basically, public order, that minus 37 is just where it actually is, and right now it's going down minus 6 a turn. If it reaches minus 100, that's a really, really big problem, and the game tells you how long that's going to take, which is 11 turns. So I'd say we're under control for the time being. So, this guy now has a decent-sized actual army here. Yeah, if I just need to take on the actual garrison, we should be able to do that. So you, just come over here. Now that should be plenty of time for you to get there next turn. So just in case, as we've still got plenty of money coming in, yeah, sure, as they're so flipping cheap, let's just get more flipping rats in production here. One more set of you, and just some lovely, lovely Skaven Slave Spears, just as an emergency force. Because quite frankly, we can have 2 of these for a total of 34 upkeep. So we may as flipping well just be constantly producing new troops. You guys, stay right there if you'd be so kind. Can you go into a different stance? No, you can't. The only thing you can do would be encamping, so we don't need you to do that in terms of stance. And meanwhile, good stuff just happened. My pastures are done over in Subatoon, and as a result, my food is now going up +5 every single flipping turn. Very, very good indeed. So now at 47... it'll still be... unfortunately, it'll still be in the normal next time. But no offense, the bonuses for morale are only fit in your own territory. If you're taking another territory, it doesn't actually count. But the public order bonus and the growth bonus will be absolutely flipping lovely. Still, the growth rate should have also jumped up like crazy. Yeah, now up to a +114 a turn. So now there is now only 2 turns until the population jumps. Rats, you need to be constantly feeding them. Constantly grow. I like the rats. The rats are good. And speaking of that pasture, by the way, Putrid Rice Bog doesn't seem good enough. We actually paid to get this place up to a level 2 settlement immediately, so let's take advantage of that and sink another 1,600 into a fetid grain marsh. Skaven factory farms are hellish places where half-formed things are bred to feed the masses. Marvellous, like grain, I suppose, or maybe we feed them on the grain. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe we've taken over the pasture, we're not actually eating what the pasture produces, we're using what the pasture produces to feed appalling things down below, and we're eating them, I guess. Still, that's going to get food produced up from 4 to 5, and growth up. Actually, it's a fairly modest increase. Actually, you know what? Anything that produces food in a rat settlement, you absolutely flipping want. So, end the turn there. That's everything already done. And then, yes, the nest nurseries are almost done as well. That's going to be +30 growth. Oh, that's going to be nice. That's going to be very, very nice indeed. Now, if we're very, very lucky, that guy's naffed off to his other city and won't actually come back. These guys, just leave them here. You're just basically producing some stuff. But if this guy can win his first battle against these guys over here, that means we're going to get ourselves our first full province. Nice. And once again, it's just 5 basic units of infantry. Well, that's fine. This time, we don't have any trickery to do. This time, we just need to use sheer overwhelming force of numbers together with the fact that we've actually got a hero. However, we've got one more trick available to us too. The Menace Below. This is a special ability the rats get. Basically, what that means is I can spawn an extra unit of clan rats, you know, on top of all the ones I've already flipping got right now, that will actually basically pop up wherever I want them to. So basically, a very easy, quick way of getting us around if that's what you need to do. If you do it in an area where there's already plenty of food floating around, or you've got plenty of food floating around, you get some charges for free. If I want to increase the number of charges, I have to spend food. I don't think that's pretty much ever a good idea, because the Menace Below is a nice to have, whereas, like, you know, actual food is keeping your entire empire going. So let's just actually get into the actual fight here, and yeah, we just need to pretty much surround these guys. And there's the city we just want to walk into. Once again, lovely, no walls whatsoever. So we can have a nice, simple, easy fight in the open field. So let's get our nice, solid lads that can actually fight on the flipping front line here. Spears at the side will keep the actual more solid sword infantry right in the middle here. Spread these guys out a bit. Why are one of you like... Oh, that's just how Skaven Slave Spears... Oh, you're the Skaven Slave Spears. Okay, sorry, my mistake. Right, and you guys, meanwhile, 2 of you, just be round the side here. Yeah, that's how you spot the slaves. Because they don't actually know how to stand in a proper line. Lovely. And you, my warlord chappie, I want you to be at the side. Because you are, in fact, yep, here we are, armoured and shielded. Weapon strength 400. You can get in there and do some really good solid damage, and I'm kind of going to need you to do that, because these lads most certainly flipping can't. So, start the battle. These guys now spawn in immediately. And I need these guys to basically start being ready to flank. That's what we need, a nice big flanking motion. And you just head round here, ready to do the same. And you, my good man. Sorry, what was your name? Toxiken, was it? Sorry, Toxiden. My mistake. Are these guys going to try and push forward, or are they going to wait for me? No, on this occasion, they've decided they don't want to push forward. Previously, when they were walking into indirect fire, they decided they did, but I guess they knew I'd just kind of keep pelting them forever if they didn't. So that kind of makes sense. Right, in which case, we just need to start moving forward. And if they're going to wait for us, then that means we can just start slowly working around them like this. So I just want to be like this, and then we just move this line forward. So everyone get into a nice position here, and then we'll just slowly encircle the bastards. And if you want to keep them in formation, it's a bit fiddly in this game. You have to hold down Alt, and then hold down left click, and then basically move the formation like this, and then they will actually all move as they should do. So we're just going to do this right now, and everyone's going to start running forward. We'll see if they respond to that. And this just basically means they'll actually hold their formation. Not perfectly, because they'll turn to actually do the run, but broadly it's what I want them to do. And then we can just basically have some of these guys encircled. Now, at this point, you, my good man, do you have any special abilities? Or, no, you've got no abilities aside from just basically being good at fighting. But you do have access to the Menace Below. So if I want to, I can basically summon some more units back there. Okay, these guys are now running in. You go over here. You go over here as well. And you get behind them and then just start encircling. Lovely. So these guys are now going to get involved over here. These guys were thinking of getting involved and change their minds. You get over here just to keep these guys busy. You get over here to keep these guys busy. You get over here to get these guys busy. Then you just basically encircle these lads right here. You into the back over here. And then you start getting involved and start just chopping down some lads. You see, we're not actually doing so well in this fight. But when my actual lad starts getting involved and these guys all start getting... Hang on, you just go around the back, please. And then into the back of here. You get in over here right now, and then this guy will do an awful lot of good damage if he can just get to the front here. Let him through. He's the only one who actually knows what he's bloody doing, please. Thank you. So he's now getting involved, and now he's at the front. He can just start basically jumping in, and he's got all the flipping health in the world. So one of those guys is already backing off and doesn't really know what to do. These guys are now surrounded, so you can see their morale is starting to drop because they don't like the fact they're so flipping surrounded. My guys are actually taking a fair bit of damage. My lord's under attack, but that's fine. The game does very kindly actually flag that up. So these guys are taking a lot of damage purely off my lord's bonus. He's just getting in there and just shredding them because that's just what he can do. He can just basically just charge through lizard people and destroy them. These guys are going to get us around on these lads. These lads are... They're slaves. So probably their morale's going to start going down pretty quickly, but they'll hold their own for the time being at least. You can see this is a lot more difficult than my last fight, but as soon as I just get one break over here, I can start using these lads to just start, there we go. As soon as these guys break, all these lads can basically just start heading in any direction they want. And you, my good lad, head over here. And actually, you know what? Menace below. I would say at this point, yep, as my rats just pop out, now the ambusher has become the ambush flipping E. We've now got a new unit that's just shown up, and then I'm basically going to charge into the back of these guys, who are a little bit panicked because they've just found themselves surrounded when they weren't expecting to be. Right, now these guys, meanwhile, who have now managed to cause these guys to... Are they breaking? Or, yeah, they are actually broken. Now... these guys into the back of these guys, and all of you just focus on him for the time being. Now these guys are going to be completely surrounded, so you can see, let's just get down into the lizard man over here. This is what the flipping ratmen need to do. They're surrounded by flies, by the way. They're constantly surrounded by flies because they smell so much. I like that. I like that quite a lot. You guys aren't actually doing anything right now, so why don't you just get over here and get involved with all of this? You guys are... these guys are out of control. They're currently in a riotty mode. You just finish off these guys. I think it's called a rampage officially, so they're no longer listening to orders, if there were orders, but there aren't actually. And I'd say probably... I mean, you've got to give it to the lizard man. They're doing a good job standing up to all of this, despite the fact that, you know, they're literally surrounded on all sides by ravenous rats, man. This is what I mean about lizard people. They just won't flipping die. If you can't make them break, they're really difficult to take out, because just look how surrounded they are, but they are just holding on so damn admirably. And my leader is just doing a good job, yeah. Your legendary lords, in fact, this isn't even a legendary lord, it's just a normal lord. A normal lord can just basically walk through standard early game infantry. So don't be afraid to just send him forward, because he's got flipping 1,000,000 hit points, so it's absolutely fine. One of those guys has just actually... Nope, that's one of my lads that's currently wavering exhausted. And those are clan rats. My lads aren't sure whether they're going to win this, which is ridiculous, but alright. You turn your attention over here if it's not already over there. These guys have got to be wavering, and yeah, they're going to get out of there momentarily. These guys are going to be going momentarily too, and we win. But with quite a bit of loss, you can see there, for like how much we outnumber those guys, and how much we surrounded them. This is why I think it's important to spend food teching up. So that you can actually start getting some slingers and some advanced stuff in your armies sooner rather than later. Because this sort of basic army, that big army, kind of struggled a little bit versus a basic level 1 settlement garrison. But regardless, we have won, which is lovely. And indeed, the game even says it's a close victory. Get ourselves... Oh, yes, of course. Don't forget you get some food. Oh, that puts me straight up to... Oh, bloody... I'm one shy. I'm one bloody shy. Boo. Ooh, the Crown of Command for this guy. Okay, that gives... Oh, that's an ability. Lardy flipping dart. Unbreakable. Okay, fine. So basically, he just can't break while he's actually using the Crown of Command ability. So he's just going to go into battle wearing a crown on top of his weird chainsaw hat thing. So, that's all absolutely fine. And of course, we do indeed want to occupy this place as well. But do we want to occupy it at level... Ooh... Do I want to occupy it at level 2? What's this place got, by the way? It's got no special thing to it, but... might be worth having regardless. I could just keep it at level 1 and grow it myself. If I do it at level 1, the food doesn't get sacrificed. Because I could get this place up to level 2 now, but momentarily, like next turn, we're going to be getting up towards surplus into the good and then actually plentiful in like a couple of turns if I just basically don't bother growing this place. And then everything's going to start growing faster. Growth plus... Actually, growth plus 20 is not a huge amount, to be honest. It's nice, but it's not... Okay, fine. You know what? We'll get this place up to level 2 as well. That gets us down to 40... And sure, -7 right now because there's -20 in the colonization effort, but that is absolutely flipping fine because that is only a temporary debuff. And we have now indeed managed to get the entirety of the Lost Valley. I believe that was a quest. Yes, you need to get Warpstone plus 7 and 2,000 gold for that. Marvellous. And that is my first entire province. Very, very nice indeed. Now, what have you just said? Issue a commandment, and you're willing to give me 500 for that. That's okay. I'm willing to do that. Go over here. Commandments are now down here. So now I can basically do one of a few things. So efficient planning, public order plus 2, untainted plus 1. So get the Skaven corruption down a bit, because that can indeed be a bit of a problem. Expansionist planning. Construction cost minus 10% for all building. Growth plus 20. That's very, very tempting indeed. Martial planning. Recruitment cost -5%. Local recruitment capacity +1. So basically I can recruit 4 rather than 3 at a time. Again, very, very bloody useful. Or exploitative planning. I like that one. So Skaven corruption up. Food generated up, but the tax rate goes down. So in other words, I could trade money. How much money would that be? That would be quite a bit of money. That would indeed be a lot of money, because this is the entire province right there. So... yeah, that's like a good 330 for, like, 2 food. And Skaven corruption, which is bad. So I guess you only do that in food-related emergencies. So, efficient planning or expansionist. Expansionist seems good. That does seem good. Yeah, I'm going to go for expansionist for now. Boom. So that's now been set. And apparently we've got some stuff to repair over here. Sorry, Sentinel of Time, we'll take care of that. Oh, another reptile thing sacrificed. Good. So now both of my generals actually have bonus damage versus lizards. Well, that's just lovely. Also, you're up to level 2 with your Crown of Command. Right, you, my good man, let's go over to you and level you up. Now, you are a proper hardcore get in the front line and actually start destroying things with your sword kind of guy. So probably what I want you to do is have, yeah, melee attack +3, weapon strength +4. That strikes me as good, and then we can start getting into, ooh, weapon strength +10% when fighting against lizard men. Yes. Yes, that's quite the flipping thing. And right now this army is in a friendly province, so the damage we did take can be repaired up really, really nice and fast on account of the fact that, yeah, there's just a ton of units that can be recruited of a similar nature nearby. Now, Sentinel of Time apparently needs some work doing to it, because some stuff's been damaged. It's level 2 immediately. This is going to need, a rubbish pit. Or I could just get rid of the rubbish pit. Hang on, let's have a look see at the building browser here. Rubbish pit generates money, but not exactly a huge amount of money, and also creates untainted. So that's the faction that is not impacted by Skaven corruption, effectively. I'm not convinced that's necessarily the most useful thing in the world, to be honest. Do you have anything special you can train here? No, you've not got any special resources or anything. In fact, now we've got the entire province, we can start actually planning the province out a bit more in detail, because of course, Oixel is the only actual place that's allowed to get up to level 5. These two places can't, only Oixel can. So over in Oixel, we really want to be prioritising the buildings that we want to take up to level 5. So there might be an argument for saying, over in Oixel, as this chain of buildings, the clan barracks, only goes up to level 3, well, why do we want that over in Oixel? That's a bit of a waste, to be honest. Oixel would be better off having something like, say, ooh, yes, like the Hidden Lair, where we could start very, very soon indeed having Night Runners and Night Runners with slings. Yep, decent melee. That just means you can deploy outside of your area, like in the no man's land between the two. Fire while moving, which is pretty darn good. Or if those are, hang on, I assume those guys have like very short range stuff. Your range is 70, whereas the slingers have 140. Okay, fine. So presumably they're tossing, what are you tossing? Are you tossing like javelins or something? Yeah, I'm guessing that's like javelins. Whereas these guys are slingers, but can't actually move while firing. Okay. So having some indirect fire coming pretty darn soon over here would be good. And then also, the actual Oixel can start be moving towards, yeah, some nice slingers, gutter runners, assassins. So, as a result, I'm going to demolish this building right now. Bit of a waste. It's also going to take one turn to actually tear down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, over here, actually start building. And also I'm going to demolish this as well. Yeah, let's just demolish that because I don't actually want a rubbish pit. So we'll get rid of that as well. But over here, we're going to start building this building I just took down over here. Lovely. So the clan pit that can then start going up to the clan barracks and finally the clan armory. Because this feels like it's going to be a little safe part of the empire. As soon as we've basically knocked out these guys and figured out what's down here, this is probably going to be a fairly safe spot. There's nice mountains all around here. There's some dwarves in the mountains up here. But I don't think they can even, I'm not sure they can even get out through. Hang on, let's get the camera around here. Can they fit through there? They may or may not be able to fit through there. I'm not sure. They may have to go along this long valley. We'll have to actually have a little look-see at that. And public order is also definitely on, you know, the low side right now. That's going down very, very fast indeed. But the conquest is going to start fading. Everything's going to be under control. It's all fine. How's your loyalty, by the way? Ooh, only 5 out of 10. Okay, that's gone down a little bit for some reason. We'll need to keep an eye on that. Anyone over here? Yeah, this right now isn't guarded at all, but we have got ourselves new grain marshes coming in, some demolition occurring. Yep, I'd say everything looks like it's under control, and level 2 settlements across the board as well. Let's just see, how are you getting on, by the way? Hang on. You've built yourself a couple of siege towers there, but yeah, let's just definitely make sure you've actually got a handful more. In which case, end the turn, let 10 bajillion factions all have their go as well, and oh, are you coming? Oh, I think they're coming. Are they actually wanting to do this? Oh, I think they actually want to do... Oh, no. They've put me under siege, but they've not decided to attack. Well, this is suddenly intriguing, isn't it? So, things possibly not quite as good as I was hoping for there. We've already got our first city under siege from flipping lizardmen, and it's a decent-sized army of lizardmen too. 12 of them. Now, I've got 10, and also the backup of my garrison, but I think the garrison is actually, right now, because it's brand new, yeah. Unfortunately, this garrison was still growing. So this garrison here is not quite ready for prime time yet. This is going to be fun. Right, so we've got one hell of a difficult battle to deal with there, because unquestionably, this guy's troops are superior to mine, but it's heavy on the skirmishers. Heavy on the skirmishers means if I was very, very good with my positioning, let's just say with the menace below, summoning extra clan rat, together with using my lord, because I've got a lord, well, we might just be able to pull that one off. We'll have to flipping see. Together with one hell of an interesting siege to come over here at this particular castle. So, that is to come tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our new series, Total War Warhammer 2. It's a good one. From what I've seen so far, it's a good one. It's going to be an interesting little series. So we'll do a few parts this week, and then I'll start spreading it out a little bit. I think we'll definitely do our first playthrough here. We shall see how we get on anyway. But in the meantime, I've been John. This has been Many a True Nerd, and this has been Total War Warhammer 2. Thank you very much, and goodbye. You know, I really hope we've agreed open borders with Japan, by the way. Otherwise, they have basically just invaded. I may have picked the wrong fight over... Yep. And my cities, of course, have got even more flipping high-tech. They're mysteriously still completely dependent on, you know, an aqueduct. Now, I'm not saying your entire army is mostly already dead, but it kind of actually is.